everybody. Welcome to the Crafty Corner. It's Katrina, and you're crafting with Katrina today. Today we're going to make some hinged AirPod cases. I've seen a lot of tutorials on these cases, but mostly the ones where the lids just pop off. However, this one is the one where the lid, we have to pop it in place so that it opens and closes with the lid attached. Here you see I'm just mixing up my Part A and Part B resin in equal parts. And I made about 50 milliliters of resin. Maybe not quite that much because this is a small case and it doesn't take a whole lot of resin. But what you want to do is pour in your Part A and B together in equal amounts and stir for at least 3 to 5 minutes. And then when you think you're done, keep stirring. I went in and got me a smaller stir stick after I mixed the epoxy together. And I'm scraping the sides here just to make sure we get all of it. If you look down in your resin and you see an area of streaks, which will look white and cloudy, then you're not mixed well enough. So keep stirring. Scrape the sides of the container as well as the bottom. I go back and forth on the bottom to make sure I get all of the ingredients mixed together so that when we dry up, we have a hard ornament when we're done. And I always call my crafts ornaments, but we'll have a dry AirPod case. All right, so I'm just going in, scraping the sides here, making sure we get all this resin incorporated together. Now, there are all kinds of resins out there, and you can use whatever kind you would like to. I have some preferences, and I have more than one. This particular resin I'm using is called Crystal Clear from the Epoxy Resin Store. And as you can see, we've got it all stirred up. And it looks really good. I'm just going to stir a little bit more just to make sure I got it good and incorporated. Now you want to stir slow. I did introduce some bubbles in here, but that was because I was moving my stick up and down to look at the resin as well as mixing kind of fast here for this excuse me, this tutorial. Now I decided to use some mica powder. You may notice the top of this says soap, but it is mica powder and you can use it for resin. So I decided on the berry, and then I went in and got my second color, which I decided to use purple. And I'm just pulling it out of the bag. I have a big bag of mica powders. And there's my purple. And this is Nico Pro. Excuse me, Nick Pro. And I'm just incorporating a little bit in there. Now, when I poured my berry in, I poured quite a bit. So I had to put some back in the case. And this is why I use dry cups for my mica powders. Just in case I pour a little bit too much, I can put it back in the bag without it being contaminated with resin. And then I'm going into my berry, and I put about 20 milliliters in that cup, and about 25 in this cup. Maybe not quite that much. But you'll notice I did not have to go back and pour any more resin because I was able to fill both molds with what I poured in here. So you'll need about, safely to say, 45 to 50 milliliters of resin to do this particular craft with. So now I'm going in and I'm stirring up the purple. And that is a pretty purple. And this resin kind of stirs up in a pearl marble type effect. So it is really pretty. And I'm stirring all of that up. Make sure you scrape the bottoms again of your cup and get all your mica powder stirred up because you don't want little pieces of powder in your project. So I went in with that, and I did not use a whole bunch of stir sticks because this is not a hard project, y'all. Don't make it hard by incorporating all these sticks and all these stirrers in there. Just get you a paper towel to sit by your side and wipe it off. And as you can see, there's no contamination. I did not mix the colors. So now I'm stirring up the berry and getting all that mica powder from the bottom of the cup and stirring it up really, really good so we get a nice pretty berry color and that nice pearl marble type effect without any lumps. Okay, so once I got this stirred up the way that I want it, so that I don't have any clumps or any lumps or anything, I decided I was going to put some glitter in there. So I pulled out the rainbow glitter because this is rainbow ice. And it is very pretty. I love this glitter. And I got this from the glitter guy. And I will put links down below to these websites that I buy these things from. The resin, of course, I got off of Amazon. And that's because they have the fastest delivery time when I'm ordering resin. But I added the rainbow ice to the berry as well as to the purple. And I just used a little cocktail stick that I wipe off. And then I'm incorporating it into the purple as well. And this just gives us a slight glitter effect. I did not use a whole bunch of glitter, but it will make it sparkle. And that was the effect that I was going for. Okay. Once you get your glitter all mixed in there, we have our two colors, our purple and our berry. So now I'm just going to pull my molds out. And if you look at these molds, you can see one is the top, one is the bottom. All right, the big piece there, that is our top. Okay. And what I do is I like to squeeze it open because there are little holes there that you need to, or little pegs there, that you need to make sure the resin goes all the way around so that you don't have any air bubbles there. So I go in with my berry to the side where the little pegs are, and then I'm going to squeeze the area where the pegs go just to make sure we get all those bubbles out of there so that our resin properly makes those pegs, because that's what's going to hold our hinge in place. All right, and then I'm going in with some purple to mix those colors up. And that's going to give us kind of a slight marble effect. Now there's that little space on the top, or on the bottom, because that is actually the bottom of your mold. There's that little space on the bottom there that you don't want to fill over. Okay, so don't cover up that space. You see I have a little bit of resin on top of there, and I'm just going to wipe that off. But don't fill up that space there. So I'm going down to the sides just to make sure I get full coverage on this resin, or in this mold, to make sure we get a whole piece. And again, what you're looking at right now is the bottom of your earpod case. All right, and that hole at the top there that I've got a little bit of resin on, as you can see, I'm wiping that off. That hole there, that is where your cord goes through. So you don't want to cover that up. You want to make sure you keep that cord open, or that space open so that your cord goes through it. All right, and you're going to fill your mold up to the rim of that space. So don't pay so much attention to the sides of your mold. Pay more attention to that space there and the rims of it to make sure you don't go over it or overflow it. All right, and now I'm just topping it off just to make sure we have enough resin there. And I'm squeezing back and forth to make sure all the air comes to the top. So I'm just going to keep adding my resin a little bit at a time, just to make sure we get the coverage on top without covering up our hole there. All right, any excess resin that gets on there or spills anywhere, just wipe it off. All right, and then I'm going to go in here with my toothpick and just go around those edges to make sure I got them full and that we don't have any bubbles in there. Release all the bubbles so they come on out. All right, and then once I've done that, if I need to add a little bit more resin, I will. Okay, but I think that's full enough. So now we're going to do the bottom of our resin, or that's actually the top of it, but we're going to do the top of our AirPod case. And the same thing. Now this side has holes in it, and they're little bitty holes, and a lot of people get this mold and don't realize that those holes are there. Well, that is where your pegs go in. All right, so I'm pinching those holes just to make sure I get them full of resin and not full of bubbles. All right, because that's what will cause those holes to not form. Okay, so you want to make sure they form. Now I'm going back in with my berry and pouring that in there. And I'm going to come back in with some more of my purple as well. Now this particular mold, you want to cover all the sides and fill it all the way to the top. Cover the entire bottom of the mold. This is the very top of your AirPod case. So once you've covered the top of that, we're going to just rinse and repeat. Y'all go back in through the edges to make sure we got it all full. And I do a little squeezing and a little pushing just to make sure our air comes on up to the top so that I can go in and pop those bubbles. So here I'm just very slowly pouring that berry in there so that we can get coverage in the mold. And although these molds are very small, they're still very tedious in filling, and you want to make sure you get every crack and crevice, because if you don't, you will not be able to put your AirPod together. And I'm just taking my little cocktail stick and scraping out what little bit of resin is in this cup to put in this mold. And now I'm going to go in with the rest of my purple and finish filling up this mold. And again, using my cocktail stick to scrape the sides of these little cups, measuring cups, to pour the rest of that resin in there. And when it comes to resins, like I said, there are many, many, many different brands. One of the other brands that I like to use is amazing. Clear Cast that you can get at Hobby Lobby. And that's my go-to emergency brand, so that when I'm out of resin and I need some in a hurry because I have some orders to fill, I can just run to Hobby Lobby and pick some up. Now, I don't use them as my main source because my Hobby Lobby doesn't sell the big batches of them. They only sell these small kits. So I have to buy those sparingly. I don't buy them in bulk. But I'm going around now with that cocktail stick just to make sure we don't have any bubbles in there and that we have full coverage around the entire edge. Alright, so once I've filled that up and I'm happy with it, I'm just cleaning up the sides of it because I don't want that resin to spill over. And on that one little corner there, I have just a little bit too much resin. So I got my paper towel out and I'm just scraping some of that resin off with the cocktail stick to make sure we don't have any overspill. And I've got that in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to let that harden for 24 hours. All right, I have a dryer here. I'm going to put part of it in the dryer. The big one won't go in there, but the little one will. So I'm going to put that in the dryer, and then we will come back in about 24 hours to open it up. Okay, and I'm just going in with a little more resin to make sure we have that good coverage there. Okay, and once I've done that, and I put about maybe 3 or 4 more little drops in there just to make sure we have that coverage, because I don't want to demold and then part of my lid has holes in it. I've had that happen before. Trust me, I've been practicing with this mold just to make sure I can tell you exactly how to fill it. Okay. And then a few more drops of the berry and we'll be all set. And I'm just going in. You can see from the top here that I need just a little bit there in that little area. Because I can see the mold through there. And this was our bottom piece after I let it sit for a few minutes while I filled up the top. It settled some, and that was why we could see the mold there. And that's okay. You want it to settle a little bit. That's why you always fill in the top part. All right, so we're 24 hours later, y'all. We're going to demold this. All right, and it, it is a little bendy, but it's okay. It will harden up. But we are able to demold it and put it together, and I can show you exactly how you put your hinges in. So right now I'm just taking the mold off, and it demolds very easily. It is not hard to demold at all. Alright, so that's our lid that goes on top. And you see the little pegs there? Those are the hinges that go inside the little holes on the other end. Alright, then we're going to demold the other side. Alright, and that is the bottom half of our case. And if you look, you'll see the holes are there. Okay, and that's what you want, those holes that are right there in the side, as well as that hole at the bottom. Alright, and then you just take your top case and you stick it in those holes to create your lid your hinged lid. Alright, and there you have it. Your lid is attached. And it is hinged in there. I hope this tutorial has helped you making your AirPod case. And thank you for tuning in to the Crafty Corner. And as you can see, our hinged lid is on there. Alright. Thank you for tuning in to the Crafty Corner, where you are crafting with Katrina. Make sure you like, subscribe if this video has helped you, and share. So our hinges are in place, our hole is in place, and we have a beautiful AirPod case. I'm going to go make some embellishments and decorate this case. And I hope you all have a lovely rest of your evening. Again, thank you for joining me in the Crafty Corner, where you are crafting with Katrina.